Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu was-salam ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna 'ilma. Assalamu alaikum. This is an online course on Ibrahim alayhi salam's dream and the onslaught of Gog and Magog. We are asking the question that are dreams a window into the future? What does the phenomenon of dreaming mean with regards to the Quran, and especially this particular dream that Prophet Abraham saw when he saw himself sacrificing his son? There is a traditional understanding of this dream. We are analyzing how much of that is consistent with the overall scheme of the Quran. So, what is the correct methodology to understand the Quran? When the proper methodology to study the Quran is applied to this subject, which is the dream of Prophet Abraham about his son. Now, by proper methodology, I have to agree that this is like an online course on itself to study the various methodologies that are employed while studying the Quran, and all of them actually have one thing in common, which is to take the Quran as a whole. So this, many scholars have written about it, and there's a lot of literature on this. So the different ayat now, getting all of the ayat in the Quran together pertaining to a subject, they're brought together harmoniously. So this is also called a thematic tafsir of the Quran, and there are various like mufassirun who have employed this, but we are just going to passingly discuss this so that we can understand the dream of Prophet Abraham. So the different ayat of the Quran pertaining to a particular subject need to be brought together harmoniously so that we avoid taking an ayat out of context. Doing that, and we are bringing all of these ayat harmoniously together pertaining to a particular subject. All the while, we have to maintain the superiority of the Quran over the hadith and not the other way around. So this is like a very dangerous trend where you have scholars who will take up a hadith and they would give it more importance, even more than the Quran, unknowingly. So the Quran says a lot of things, and then you have a hadith that on the face of it is contradictory to what the Quran is saying, but you have scholars actually sticking to that hadith and not trying to reconcile the two in a fruitful manner. Okay, so this will have to now this whole subject of what is the proper methodology to study the Quran is so useful that we'll actually, when we study this, the most complicated topics for modern Muslims, say Islam and science, Islam and evolution, Islamic eschatology, so Dajjal, the topic of Gog and Magog, and quantum physics in Islam, these topics can actually be simplified if you have a proper methodology in place. So the two fundamental principles of that methodology is never to take an ayat out of context, always to have it grouped up with the other ayat in the Quran that talk about that subject, and to make a harmonious system of meaning. This is what Dr. Fazlur Rahman Ansari talks about in his book. We'll go into detail, inshallah, in some other course, inshallah. And then all the while we have to maintain the superiority of the Quran over the hadith. So it is the Quran that judges the hadith, not the other way around. The hadith is not, the ahadith are not equal to the Quran in any way. So when we use this proper methodology, we will have to conclude that the dream that Ibrahim alayhi salam sees, in which he's sacrificing Ismail alayhi salam, his son, it does not mean that Allah wants him to kill his son, to sacrifice his son. Rather, it is a dream, and a dream has a message about the future. It's a khabar about the future, and the message, this khabar, has an interpretation. It has to be interpreted, and the meaning, which is the interpretation, the ta'wil or the ta'bir of that dream. When Ibrahim alayhi salam enacts what he saw in the dream, that is a display of his utmost acceptance and the wholehearted consent with the qadr, the will of Allah, regarding the fate that awaits his progeny from one of his sons. So Ismail alayhi salam in the dream has a meaning, and what Ibrahim alayhi salam is doing in the dream, that has a meaning. It's not literal, it's not a literal command as in you have to kill your son, because that, like we said, is not in conformity with the rest of the Quran, goes in contradiction with the rest of the Quran. So it has to be interpreted in a way where we have the proper methodology, and the result would be that we understand that this is something that needs an interpretation. Like all dreams essentially need an interpretation. They represent something. They're like signs that have to be interpreted.